have the same groovy music every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. It's pretty funny already. You know, David, there was a time in history, modern history, where news stations were directed to provide Nazi propaganda. How the Jews stole all the food, have all the money, own all the companies, have all the Hermes and Chanel, just joking. And we're controlling every part of society that is causing you to be harmed. Those networks no longer exist. Networks that preach propaganda are outlawed in this country and even in Poland, go figure, of all places. You know, if Poland, you tried doing Nazi propaganda, they would arrest you and put you in jail. Poland, of all places. And I'm not a lover of Poland because they're kind of a backward society in other senses, but they at least got something right. Germany defends this issue as well. So the question is, how does Lesley Stahl from 60 Minutes, which, you know, we should know the history of 60 Minutes, the producers of this program and of this network, get away with Nazi propaganda type broadcasts? You know, providing false and misleading information would be okay if it was a 4-drama TV show, because it's a TV show, not a news digest. In fact, the abusive word of news and the misuse of so many words today is just driving me nuts. David, I'm sorry, I'm going to go off topic. I was at a conference and people were talking about assets and asset classes and treating it and embezzlements and money laundering. And I get very frustrated when people like you do, David, misuse terminology. So I would just like to go back and send back to the subject. How in the world can 60 Minutes continue to broadcast under the FCC after a broadcast like Sunday? I just don't get it. Hi, everybody. My name's Stuart Brisgell. That's David Solomon as he grabs his goatee, wondering where the hell this intro came from. And we tackle a diverse range of topics. It's a candid conversation. It's a bold opinion, whether it's David or me. Whether it's breaking down the latest headlines, exploring pop culture, debating politics, or delving into complexities of modern life, we offer this platform for that and every perspective. So grab a seat, settle in, and join us as we are about to get into another rant where nothing is off limits. David, Lesley Stahl, I think I got to reach out to CBS today. I am so utterly and disgusted, and you know, it takes a real anti-Semite to try and blame the Israelis for October 7th, for showing that they're the ones who are the reason why things happen. Lesley Stahl is a propaganda operator. He's no longer considered a journalist. He's not even an editorialist. Sorry, my nose is a little stuffy. You know, it's a little Puerto Rico there. Yeah, David, I'm just flabbergasted. I'm actually utterly speechless. I don't even know how to even continue this.
So then let me tell everybody what's really going on here with 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes and CBS has shown its ugly side numerous times. Its bias is very clear. It has recently done everything that it could to derail the Donald Trump election. It's done everything it could to derail the Marco Rubio investigation into Mahmoud Khalil. CBS has definitely showed its side of bias. It is so clear and it's so obvious. It is vile. And what could have been the right kind of balanced approach, and I use the word balanced because in war, there are always numerous sides and there's always different stories that emerge. But CBS has been consistently crapping on Israel, that Israel's at fault. And Lesley Stahl's interview this Sunday of American Keith Siegel, who was in captivity for 484 days. Tal Shalom Yarden Bibas, and Yarden Bibas was the one whose wife and children were killed, choked to death by Hamas. Lesley Stahl showed no remorse. Lesley Stahl had a message to drive along with her overseers in CBS. She started by saying that Netanyahu broke the ceasefire. False. False to the nth degree. I mean, no. But again, in CBS's twisted way, it had to be done that way because everything had to be Israel's fault. She did acknowledge 1,200 were killed on October 7th, but then proceeded to say that 50,000 Gazans were killed. No disclaimer that this was from the numbers from the Gaza Health Ministry, the fake health ministry. Ooh, by the way, even they themselves have said the numbers are wrong, that they've misquoted the numbers. They misrepresented the numbers. But again, let's not go with the truth here, people. She didn't bother to separate combatants from civilians. Her goal was to paint Israel as the bad player. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, she interviews Keith Siegel, who says that the Hamas starved him to death, and Stahl answers by saying, well, maybe there wasn't enough food. Once again, showing where CBS was trying to go with their interview. It is unbelievable that, even Yarden Bibas, when he was escorted out, she called it a staged ceremony. Ceremony. To me, the choice of words of journalists, Stuart, is key. And when you make statements like that, we know exactly whose side you're on. And CBS and 60 Minutes, the overlords and news media at CBS have time and time again showed what they stand for. They stand for terrorism, ladies and gentlemen. They stand for anarchy. They stand for the left. They stand for wokeism. They stand for the destruction of democracy, plain and simple. Because in to sit there and wrap yourself around, I think it's the Second Amendment would say the freedom of the press and all this stuff. Absolutely. You could beat the freedom of the press, sure, no problem. But when you start spreading propagandist lies, you've crossed the line. And Stuart, to me, I think that the line I think at this moment it behooves the FCC to investigate CBS's inclinations, because one doesn't go out there and accuse the criminals. I'm sorry, not accuse, side with the criminals, side with the terrorists, and say they're the good guys. The only democracy in the entire Middle East, Israel, has done everything it could to try to protect Palestinians, try to protect the people, try to stop a terrorist attack. And Lesley Stahl, CBS, and these cruel people have decided that Hamas, they're the victims. Palestinians are victims. And that an American Israeli, Keith Siegel, who sits there today, 484 days of captivity. His wife was captured. His wife Aviva was released. He says he was beaten, tortured. And instead of going into that conversation, she refused to go down that road. She refused to acknowledge the rape. She refused to acknowledge the torture. She refused to talk. All she wanted to do was blame Israel where possible. And her CBS News overlords were cheering her on. Keep going. We love it. Such a report should have never been broadcast. It is disgusting, and it shows you the depths of hate at CBS towards Israel, the Western values, and democracy. And I think at this point, CBS should be taken off the air. Stuart, the FCC should investigate them and take them off the air if they're going to spread Hamas's propagandist lies. And the reason I'm saying this is the following. If we're going into university campuses and we're sending back these terrorist leaders who are on campuses, then how is CBS any different? If you're going to spread, you're on mute. If you're going to spread Hamas's lies, you should be shut down.
All right, let me jump right on. CBS News is owned by Paramount Global. The top 10 investors in Paramount Global is Vanguard, Lego, State Street, National Amusement, BlackRock, Invesco, Godey Capital, Ariel Investments, Contreras Investments Management, Slate Path. You know, David, you know how you shut them down? You start calling their investors. When their investors that own 10% of their company who have board seats say, you need to change your ways, you know, people will change. You know, that's something that people fail to understand. You know, in the United States, there's now a whole new way on shopping at people that aren't the woke companies anymore. You know, why buy from a woke company? Buy from a company that's not woke. You know, I'm actually going to take the time today and I'm going to call some of these companies today and ask them, who is the one who deals with the board seat? Who permits this false information? Do you know? Do you want this sent to the Trump administration? I think we all have to send it to the Trump administration, David. I think that's a must.
Well, you know what, Stuart?
I mean, I'm going to call Shari Redstone, George Cheeks, and Christopher David. These are 3 officers of the company.
Well, you can feel free to call them all they want, but I've got to tell you something. At the end of the day, Stuart, to me, it's really, really the way to hit back at them is in the pockets. You know, they're the ones who are, if you're encouraging boycotting and if you're encouraging Hamas and if you're encouraging these kinds of things, maybe CBS shows are not to be watched. CBS News should be off your radar.
That's getting into boycotting.
It's, you know, Stuart, no, it's, you know what it's called? It's called choice. You know, instead of watching 60 Minutes, go watch something else. It's not
I agree with that.
I would call the CBS advertisers and ask them the same question. Do you understand that you're the station in which you're broadcasting all of your stuff, you're advertising your stuff on, is supporting terrorism? Like, just remember who you want your brand tied into this. Stuart, this is what CBS, you know, the overlords at CBS don't care about, because the news department wants to drive a message and an agenda. But the bosses at CBS, the owners at CBS, care about profit. And if you start eating into the revenues and the profits of the company, well, lo and behold, that's where you're going to start. You may start seeing change. You know what? I want to just let me wrap this up, Stuart, okay? Because I just want to tell you how deep and ugly Lesley Stahl and CBS like to get. You know, then Bibas thanked Donald Trump. And I was actually surprised that they let him, that statement was allowed to be broadcast, because CBS is so anti-Trump and didn't want to let him get in a word edgewise. But of course, like everything else, let's twist this, that it can't be Trump who's successful, because it's all about, well, you know, Trump may have helped me, but Trump is still bad. And it's amazing how this does, it's like these kinds of statements, you make you wonder why the Trump administration has told traditional media, you are obsolete. You are irrelevant. Nobody wants to listen to you anymore because you are the DNC channel. You are only interested in one type of agenda. And it's not about helping people. And it's not about Western values. But if you're going to be a terrorist propaganda machine, I think CBS needs to be taken off the air by the FCC. That's my opinion.
Well, you know, I'm having fun, David. I think you should go check out this chat, because I'm dropping all these people's private email addresses that work at CBS in our chat. And, you know, you're never going to get anything done until you send an email, until you tell them, hey, I'm really upset that you're doing this. And, you know, yes, you know, there are only 0.2% of the world population are Jews. Yes, we know we're a minority, but it's not just Jews. It's right and wrong. People that are going to do things right or wrong. And that's just something you have to stick up for at this point. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how they could broadcast this anti-Semitism. I don't know.
You said, no, but you said it exactly. You said it exactly right. It's broadcasting anti-Semitism. That's their message, my friend. That's why it's time to shut down CBS.
All right. Well, I dropped in those email addresses, David. Have at it. You know, I guess I get the last word in. Thank you, everybody. It's been great having you. David and I are here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. And you can join us for another episode of the Rant Network. You can download our podcast from our website, catch them on all the verticals. We truly appreciate you tuning in and sharing this time with us. Your support and engagement is everything. Don't forget, we put all those CBS emails into the chat, so go have at it. And they can't hide from that either. So don't forget, guys, if you're